What cheer, y'all? Welcome back to Red at the Wire. Well, let's take a break from Royal Ascot and talk about this weekend's post Derby race for the 3-year-olds, the Ohio Derby. It's the 12th race on the card at Thistledown. It's run at a mile and an eighth for 3-year-olds, and we do have some familiar faces in this one. Most notably, Clever again, who was a little unlucky in the Preakness, getting involved in that tussle with journalism and goal oriented, but was a pretty impressive horse beforehand for Steve Asmussen. You've got Moplex, who won the Sanford Stakes at Saratoga, I believe it was, and was third in the Champagne Stakes. Kind of went off the Derby trail for a little while, but has come back and run pretty well, albeit around one turn, but is moving up in distance and class today. McAfee for Dick Dutrow, who was a pretty game second in the Peter Pan to Hill Road, and of course, the darling of the Derby Trail, without a doubt, the best story, I thought, the Chunk of Gold, $2,500 purchase, who got all the way to the Kentucky Derby and was underestimated all the way, except by us, right? And and I thought acquitted himself pretty well in the Derby, and he's taken a little break. He's come back trained well. Let's see what he can do here. Looking at this field, we have talked about the 3-year-old class, and one of the things that we have pointed out that was very clear throughout the Triple Crown, the Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont, is that there's three horses and everybody else. There's journalism, sovereignty, and Baeza, and everybody else. Well, so you would think that you kind of get into a race like the Ohio Derby, which is kind of a second tier Derby race for 3-year-olds, and you think, well, maybe it's more wide open because when you get past the top three, then it's the talent level is fairly similar, and in some respects you could say that. But what I look at in this race is kind of the same analysis we have with the 3-year-olds overall. We have in this race. You've got the big four and everybody else. Most of these other horses are local and have not run at the class level that these others have, and really, frankly, don't have speed numbers anywhere close, uh, pretty much, to the rest of these. So to find a horse who's laying in the weeds, I found it rather difficult looking at this group. Capaluca, I guess, would be the one of the local horses that you would maybe look at a little bit. But let's be honest, this horse was not very good uh, early in his career and has since found rebirth coming to Thistledown. And no disrespect meant to Thistledown, but that's not the same level of track or competition that the big four in this race have faced. And consequently, I can't really make a case for Luca, especially when you consider his prior record, and that just the last two starts, he just made leaps and bounds improvement, and that can happen for a 3-year-old. But he's doing it against inferior fields. If you took out the big four and just left it to Master Control or Expedition, Bohemian Style, and maybe even Corvino in this race, well, yeah, he'd be a pretty heavy favorite, and I'd probably want to bet him. The problem is that he's got to face some other horses who are further along and are a little more talented. So you basically Kapaluka and any of the local horses, just I can't see it. I just don't. I just don't see any reason to get interested in. Brereton's Baytown. We've seen this horse. This is kind of seems every year on the Derby Trail we get one 3-year-old where the owners just insist upon running the horse over and over again, regardless of how poorly he does in graded stakes. And Brereton's Baytown was one of them. He was running in a claiming race not too long ago. His best finish is a fifth. I can't even remember the stakes race. That's how inconsequential his performances have been. He isn't good enough. And if you consider he has been on the Derby Trail and is still one of the lowest or highest odds here, 30 to 1, that should say a lot. So I'm not expecting a miracle from Heritage Baytown. So that eliminates 6 of the horses to talk about. So let's get into the top 4, the ones that I think have the most realistic chance to win this race. Well, first and foremost, Master Controller is not a horse who's going to give Clever Again a lot of problems on the front end. And so there's your speed, uh, the pace of the race. That's it right there. And now, if we talk about Clever Again, yes, okay, the Preakness, he probably wasn't ready to run in that race class wise. I mean, it may have been a little over his head, and I fell prey to it. I thought he was a pretty good looking horse. And, I thought he ran his race, and it wasn't good enough. I didn't expect he could beat journalism too much without a lot of help. But he has quality. I mean, you go back the race beforehand, and that would be a field I would say is probably comparable to this one. Maybe this is a little bit better, but Clever Again. I mean, he ran his race, and it wasn't like he fell off a cliff and just was blown away in the Preakness. The only reason he finished so far back really was because of the traffic issues, and he had to check very hard. And at that point, Jose Ortiz just eased him and didn't run him any farther. So uh, I don't think it indicated that he was he was way outclassed. He was outclassed a little bit, certainly by journalism. But I thought he acquitted himself fine. He just had some bad luck in the tussle in the stretch that's been well documented. He's come back and he's trained well. He's had 2 good works. He can do the distance. We know that he's got the pedigree for it, and I think the race shape wise, who's going to go get him? You look at the early pace presses or Master Controller. I don't think any of them are going to give him a problem. And so, while I am reticent to take these horses after they run in a Triple Crown race, because sometimes there's a bit of a hangover from it. Steve Asmussen is, notorious for keeping horses in good form for extended periods of time. So the fact that there's nobody to really challenge Clever Again a whole lot on the front end, I think he'll get the lead easily. And I think he's demonstrated he's got plenty of class and was getting better prior to the Preakness, get some class relief here. I think he'll win the race. So I'm going to pick Clever Again. Now, Moplex certainly will be one that will be rating off of Clever Again. And I love this horse in the Sanford Stakes and had him all the way. And he, I've always wondered about him as a 2-turn horse. He did have a good third in the Champagne Stakes, but that's around 1 turn. But, you look at this field, and class-wise, I think he's in a higher class than most of the horses in this race. So, can he get the distance at this class level? I think he probably can. Now, if he was running in, let's say, the Belmont, no, he probably wouldn't, because that's a little too tough a field, and that's where the limitations would show up. But not here. I think this horse has good class, and I think he has the talent to stick around. The last race was probably the 1-turn 7 furlong race he ran in. Was not quick, and he rated just off the leader until it was time to strike, and then he won the race. And I thought he looked good doing so. Probably indicative of the type of pace you're going to get in this race. And let's remember, if it's not going to be lickety split, that allows Moplex to stay in the race. So to me, at 6-1, Moplex, if Clever Again does prove that he's still, the Preakness took a little bit out of him, then maybe Moplex will be right there in the stretch, and I give him a shot. So Moplex at 6-1, offering good value. I think he can based upon the scenario more than anything, and that really there aren't any other pressers that are going to give him a lot of issue. He's just going to hang behind Clever again. And then it's a question if he's good enough, and we'll see. McAfee ran a really nice Peter Pan, and we kind of expected that. He was extremely game in the stretch, but Hill Road ran right by him. And this is a horse who has, he's taken, Dick Dutro's taken his time with this one. It's been a while. There have been issues with him here and there. But he looks like he's starting to put it together in the Peter Pan. Now, the only reason I wouldn't consider him more of a stronger win candidate is the way he runs from off the pace. Looking at the way he runs, he's a bit of a grinder. And let's remember, too, Captain Cook probably is a little limited distance-wise at 1.125 and he kind of dueled with him in the stretch before just getting past him. Captain Cook, I mean, yes, he's won at 1.125 before, but not at the high class levels. And I don't think that's really the distance that he wants. But he is pretty classy and was able to stick around. But I think McAfee has a more of a two-turn pedigree, and frankly, he really should have dusted him in the stretch, and he didn't. So I think this is a horse heading in the right direction. It's more his running style that is a problem for me, and he seems more of a grinder to me. And I don't know that that's the right type of style to win this, and I'm still not completely sold on him. There was a nice Peter Pan, but he's he hasn't his track. It's always tough when you see horses who seem like they're running in quicksand like McAfee, and then all of a sudden, boom, they break out of it. It's kind of the same thing with Kapaluga. He wasn't running very well, and then all of a sudden, boom, 2 races in a row, he runs very well for Thistledown. So, to me, 3-1 is an underlay for McAfee, but do I think he can factor in this race? Yes, and I think he's a good candidate for underneath. I would think he's more likely there than as a win candidate. Chunk of Gold, what can you say? I mean, he's just a horse you have to love. Here's the thing about Chunk of Gold. Now, we noted in our pace study for the Derby that his fractions were getting lower, his late fraction was getting lower and lower, decreasing as the distances were getting longer. And really, those second place finishes he got in Louisiana were more a product of those not being very good fields, and that was borne out in the Derby. The Louisiana Derby Trail was not very good. However, this horse continues to bring it every single time. Now, it's not good enough. It wasn't good enough in the Derby, but he ran his race. And if you consider this field and this class level, it's probably more tantamount to what Louisiana was. And if that's the case, Chunk of Gold has a chance here. But the problem is, the thing I'm kind of wrestling with a little bit is that he's got all the performances that we really liked from him are all second place finishes. And they were kind of, the Risen Star was kind of a suck up. The Louisiana Derby was a better effort, ran better, looked better, certainly was progressing. And then the Derby, I didn't think he ran bad at all. He just was outclassed. There's just no doubt about that. But then again, if you weren't the top 3, they all were. So, and again, the way Chunk of Gold runs, he's at a disadvantage in this race. Now, he's training great, and that's always a good sign. He's had quite a bit of time off from the Derby, so perhaps there won't be a hangover. And he may be a horse who's continuing to improve. I see no reason why he couldn't win this race, but I just don't think the race shape sets up well for him. But I like this horse, and I think he continues to get better. And cutting back to 1.125 is a distance I think he can be effective at. So Chunk of Gold, to me, has a shot, but he's more likely to be underneath play. So we look at the wagering strategy for value, and I stress for value. We're gonna throw a win bet on Moplex because he does offer the best value at 6-1, and he's got a puncher's chance going around 2 turns like this. I believe it's the first time he's doing it. Sometimes horses with limited pedigree can do very well for one shot. Um, if we go back to River Thames, maybe a pretty good example of that in the Fountain of Youth. Hasn't followed it up, didn't follow it up with very much. So, one to think about just for the value. It's hard for me to see him getting the win because I think his pedigree is a little kind of one turn, and I just like Clever again better in the spot, getting the lead unmolested. The will so Exactus, we're going to do 6-2 with Chunk of Gold, and then we'll do 2-6, and then we'll do 6-10 and 6-4, leveraging accordingly. Trifecta, 6 with 2 with 4-10, and then we're going to go 6 with 2-4-10 with 2-4-10. And then we'll throw in a superfecta because I really think this is a very stratified race. It's the top 4 and everybody else. So we'll go 6 with 2-4-10 with 2-4-10. And that's the Ohio Derby. So I hope our analysis helps you with your own wagering strategy, and I wish you the best of luck as always. Certainly, if you like content like this, please like and subscribe. And thanks again to all of you, excuse me, who have contributed to this community, who've grown it, and continue to do so. Thanks for all the comments. We love that. Let's keep that rolling. We've got a lot of good stuff coming up pretty soon. We're going to have, Saturday we'll have some coverage for Royal Ascot, as well as how much I can get done for the Thistledown for the Ohio Derby for the sequence remains to be seen. Again, time is of the essence with me, so I apologize for that. But I did want to get out the Ohio Derby for you because I know a lot of you will be playing it. So, much more coming up from Right at the Wire. We're getting closer to Saratoga. I believe they're opening earlier this year than they normally do. So we'll be hands-on with the spa, and then when Del Mar opens up, we'll be hitting that too. And all the certainly prominent stakes like the Haskell and whatnot that come along the way leading up to the Breeders' Cup. So that's it from here. I'll talk to you soon, and until then, be well.